What's up, Trekkies? It's your boy Wil Wofford here with Trekker's Delight, a Star Trek-inspired podcast. Before we get started, we're going to give away $100, so make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to our channel where we will announce the lucky winner every single week. Now, welcome to Trekker's Delight.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of LGBTrek. For this episode, we're actually going to continue exploring representations of LGBTQ, words are hard, representation in Star Trek. We're following From the Outcast, which was a TNG episode, and now we're jumping back in time in terms of the franchise, but we're actually jumping a little bit forward in terms of actual film time, and we're covering the Stigma, which addresses the AIDS epidemic some 20 years too late. I am one of your co-hosts, Marie Brownhill. We have the other co-host with us, William Wofford, and our lovely guest hosts, Eris Permore and Nora Kidwell.
Hello.
Say hi, everybody.
Hi.
So, just to do a pretty brief plot summary, the Enterprise is ordering the Enterprise NX-01 is, secure in its faith of the heart, and it's orbiting a random planet that happens to have a medical conference going on. Well, Phlox wants to go down and talk to some Vulcans about Panar syndrome because T'Pol has Panar syndrome, and the symptoms are currently worsening and moving beyond Phlox's ability to treat. So he wants to go down and talk to them. She says, "Yeah, but no, that's a bad idea." And the reason it's a bad idea is because Panar syndrome is limited to a minority. And I got so tired of this word. I'm just not even gonna lie.
Or subculture.
Yeah, a minority of Vulcans who have the capability of performing mind melds, and so they are spreading their dirty mind aids. Thanks for the term, Eris. Via mind meld, and the rest of Vulcan culture as a whole disapproves of this practice, and so turns out that you can lose your standing, you can lose your job, you can lose your commission, you can lose everything if it turns out that you are part of this minority. God, it got old. The part got old. And so T'Pol doesn't actually want to engage. Well, T'Pol herself acquired Panar syndrome when she was forced to meld by someone else. So she herself is not part of this minority, but she's refusing to engage with any of the other Vulcans because she doesn't want to validate their prejudice. The Vulcans figure out that she has Panar syndrome. They're getting ready to have her yanked back to Vulcan, and all of the bad things happen to her. Archer steps in. Archer basically has them hold a hearing to find out whether or not, I'm not exactly sure what, really, because this wasn't terribly well written. Because I'm not super sure how that was supposed to work. But Archer was going to basically fight against the Vulcans and their decision to take her back. Someone else steps in, basically says, "Hey, I'm a member of this minority." T'Pol herself didn't get this by engaging in our dirty minority behavior. She was coerced / brain raped. So, also trigger warning.
Yeah.
That's part of this. And ultimately, Phlox does get some additional research, thinks he can come pretty close to developing a treatment regimen for her. She doesn't lose her commission because, again, she's not engaging in the dirty mind melding behavior. That's the big story. The B story is Trip getting played for laughs. Phlox's wife, one of them, Fiesel, comes aboard, and she has a magic neutron microscope, and she's really interested in doing some extracurricular research on Trip's microscope.
She really has some fascinating dialogue about having Trip plugging in and downloading data into her microscope.
I know.
I love Fiesel.
You take it in, and you put it right there. You put that in until it hits the broad end, and I was just like, "Huh? Where have I heard this before?"
He was perfect.
Yeah.
Just like on Prime Night.
Feasel, however, despite the fact that Trip is very obviously uncomfortable with all of this and is very concerned about making Phlox mad, yeah, there's Feasel.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, I would not have turned that down, but whatever.
Oh,
Whatever,
no.
Trip.
And there's Phlox in the background. That was a great scene.
I know, like Phlox does not care. Like he's turning
No.
around and asking about like their mutual acquaintances. He's fully aware of what's going on, and he just does not care. But this is basically Star Trek or Star Trek Enterprise. Let me specify, dealing with concepts of polyamory and how that would actually look. Ultimately, Trip becomes increasingly uncomfortable. He goes to Phlox rather than use his big boy words to talk to Feasel about this. He goes to Phlox and basically is like, yo, your wife is hitting on me and it makes me uncomfortable. And Phlox is like, woo, did she promise to have sex with you? Because it's super fun. You should go do that. And Trip is just like, my little Florida head just exploded, and not the good way. Just couldn't handle it. And so ultimately, Trip never engages in that rose petal bubble bath that apparently is such an integral part of Phlox's of the Denobulan mating rituals. And Feasel leaves the Enterprise without having examined Trip's microscope. And so that is the Stigma in a nutshell. And guys, I'm super proud of us because look, it is 7 minutes in and we're done.
This is historical.
Fantastic.
Well done.
Right? I'm very proud. Like, go me.
Normally it takes us like 40 minutes.
I know.
Right.
So
we just
I
need to
open
lay
up.
out the full horror of this episode before we start going off on any tangents. About
No, we're gonna get there, and believe me, I'm about to unleash the angry eras. So, but I do, before we get to the really heinous AIDS subplot, I kind of want to clear out the much shorter consent issue, if we don't mind doing that.
Sure.
Because I think that's a much more, we can sort out the major points of that in like 5 minutes and then move on to do like a true deep hate dive into the rest of the episode. Because Eris, by the way, has been sending me messages about this and has been chomping at the bit for some time. And I believe Nora has notes.
I do. I have 2 pages. Quotes.
This
Yeah.
girl has 2 pages.
I have given you messages about thank you for reminding me how much I absolutely hate the opening theme of Enterprise.
I'm sorry, you don't have strength to believe, Eris?
No.
I do not either.
I have
No.
in fact built much of my life around that. So
As much as I have mixed feelings about Faith of the Heart itself, as I told Eris earlier, I do think Enterprise has one of the most visually interesting opening sequences.
visually, yes.
Like if you mute that and just watch how the visuals are done, it's fantastic. But
Yes.
yeah, Faith of the Heart was an interesting choice.
It works great with the 2 Mirror Universe episodes.
Yes.
Which, by the way, we are going to get to on Fight the Patriarchy. In fact,
Yes.
our next series of episodes are going to be a Hoshi deep dive. And one of those episodes is the Mirror Universe. So heads up, ladies! Heads up.
I liked the outro music in Enterprise more than I did the intro. Like the end credit music.
Mhm.
Oh, sure.
I was like, why couldn't y'all just put that at the beginning? Like, what's this?
Because that would have been like that would have required like somebody realizing what a disaster that was going to be.
I mean, even in
Now-
2001, that was not my thing.
Now I'm
I'm
gonna
not
out
sure who they tested that on.
I'm gonna out myself. I do in fact own this. I did pay money for the MP3 of this because I thought it was hilarious, and
That's
I play
fair.
it for my
You
spouse.
did it ironically.
Of course I did. Of course I did. Because sometimes you just need a good hate listen. Not gonna lie. I'm like,
It's true. Mine is Fancy by
I
Reba.
feel like I have imposter syndrome. I play Faith of the Heart because somebody got paid to do this.
Some people made a lot of money to make the decision to put that at the start of Star Trek.
And at the time, it wasn't called Star Trek. It was just called Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
And they have not yet been drawn and quartered for that decision, at least to my knowledge.
Considering that that's generally against the Eighth Amendment, I'm going to say probably they have not.
I feel like this is the point in time when the Supreme Court really needs to, carve out some exceptions.
Yeah, I mean, this is where we're headed anyway. Let's just
We'll have,
profit
we'll have to bring it up to Biden's nominee. Like, no. We need you to revisit Cruel and Unusual Punishment to carve out people whose musical decisions make Eris angry. But all right, let's we've already gone on our first tangent, y'all. We already have. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the Trip Feasel subplot first. So who wants to take that one? Nora.
I loved it. I'm sorry. I loved Feasel. I loved Phlox. I loved them teasing Tucker about it, and I thought it was great. Yeah, I don't know. I think I love that they just talk about, they're gossiping about, oh no, that's his second wife, and that was her first husband, and she's moved in with her third husband now. I just love the gossip, and I want to be a part of their family.
Like, I gotta tell you, I mean, I have maybe had similar conversations. Like, all I needed was like a rosé, and
Yes.
And that was very much what was going on there. Eris, what did you feel about it?
So, look, it's punching up at the monogamous white man. So there's no real level on which I'm going to feel too bad about this.
Mm-hmm.
That said, Diesel definitely should have picked up that something about her advances was making Trip enormously uncomfortable, and stepped back and revisited that.
I think judging by the end of the episode, I think she knew, and I think Phlox knew as well.
I think they both knew.
They were just teasing on him.
Yeah,
they knew what they were doing,
and that kind of raises the question: like, where is the line? Because it's funny to Phlox, it's funny to Feasel, it's, I'm not gonna lie, funny to the audience.
But if it
But
were
it's not funny
Amanda,
for Trip.
it's not funny for men. So if the roles were reversed, even if the man was just playing, they'd be ready to hang him.
Yeah,
I think there is I
people,
distinctly
yes.
think there is a gender issue here, and also they, for whatever reason, Enterprise uses Trip as kind of a punching bag.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Trip is, I actually said this when I was watching this. Trip is like the reverse Riker. Everybody wants to get with Trip across the galaxy, and it always goes really badly for him.
And it just didn't happen. He ends up pregnant, but he didn't really,
Yeah.
Yep. No. Enterprise did in fact make Embreg canon.
So I mean,
Thank you, Rick Berman.
I know, right?
So again, that kind of just brings me to where I am a little bit torn on that whole plot line. I mean, look, monogamy, it definitely enjoys the position of privilege in a majority of our cultures here. And so, like I said, punching up at the cis-het monogamous guy and having a little bit of fun at his expense when what's going on is obvious to everybody else. I mean, it's not like the Denobians aren't dropping a ton of blatant statements that they are not monogamous or really at all concerned about this, and Trip is just too clueless to pick up on it. So I can see the rib. There's definitely some fun in ribbing that. At the same time, I think, like Will said, it's very easy to imagine this being just a little bit different and sparking a lot of outrage.
It would be a very different show.
Yeah.
Very, very different show if the genders were reversed.
Very, very. They'd be like, why did he even think that was funny? Like, hold on now. Wait. But
I mean, it's really not. Because my frustration here is that Trip is not consenting. He is very obviously not consenting. At one point, he literally tries to use Hoshi as a cock block or lady block. I'm not really sure what the term would be here.
Yeah, that was awkward.
Yeah. I'm like, congratulations, you just out-awkwarded Hoshi. Like, well,
instead of a cock block, he got himself into a poly lock.
Oh.
Still got my humor.
You do.
That's important.
But yeah, like, I mean, so this is kind of this kind of chalks up a little to also this fear of polyamory. So yeah, it's on one level it is a send up of white cishet monogamy, but it also is kind of playing into certain fears about polyamory. And most of the stable polyamorous relationships in my own acquaintance, the stable ones, again, note, consent's a huge deal. Huge deal. And all of that has to be negotiated. All of it, everybody has to be on board. There's none of this kind of, we're just messing with you that's going on here. And it's just, and it's not funny. The other thing that really bugs me about this subplot is that, again, rather than using his big boy words to tell Feasel that he's uncomfortable, he goes to Phlox.
Yeah.
Right?
Just
and
like
that's
that.
really...
That's very much...
And it's very much not in the, hey, you're my friend, I feel uncomfortable with the situation and I feel I need to be transparent for you. That is not what's going on. No. It is, I am coming to you because you're her spouse.
Because
and
that's
I want
how he
to
was
make
raised.
sure that you know that I am absolutely
gentleman.
not peeing up your tree.
Yeah, because I think his opening statement was like, "Nah, I'm nothing but a gentleman, and I have the utmost respect." Because you can tell that with his words, that's just that. I won't say just, but that's how he was raised, and in his set of beliefs. So, and I get it not get it in the sense that I approve of what's happening, but I get it in the sense of, okay, two totally different species. But as far as like the metaphorical message that was presented here is a whole level of pistosity and double standard stuff. Is just like, why is this funny? This is not funny. This might be funny to their species, but to me as a watcher, this is not funny. Because
like,
if
we
a man
cross so far into awkward territory that we can't even see funny anymore from where we're sitting.
Like girl had his hands all over him.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so the foot sequence is kind of like the worst parody of Basic Instinct ever. Yes, I'm dating myself by that reference. No, I don't care.
Yeah, and it is. I think that what Will said about the double standard gender-wise here really puts a whole new light on it. If a male character of any species had been coming on to a female character in the show like this, it would have gone over like a rock.
A lead balloon, yeah.
Yes, I agree. I guess I was looking at it as a white female thinking, loving Feasel. That's, I don't know. And then the cafeteria scene was cringy. It was very bad. But Phlox, I know the Phlox thing when he explained it to him, and I thought, well, now he gets it, but he didn't. He just kept on being awkward. So yeah, I hear you guys, and I do agree with that.
I hate to stand up for everybody's favorite space Florida man here.
Florida
man. I want to stand up for him because he is completely within his rights to say this bothers my belief structure. Like, I'm sorry. Right. I get it. Like, it may seem very weird to you, but in the sense that I have to respect, like, that as a decent being in the universe, I have to respect your culture. I would really appreciate it if you would respect my culture and my boundaries.
Yeah, that's a really fair point. I feel like Star Trek does that a lot with the social and human rights issues. I appreciate the commentary you're trying to make, but they just, they don't hit it so hard, and they're just like stereotype, generalization. Let's bring it all in.
The notion
I'm gonna make you pom poms, Nora.
I can't help it. I'm very.
I am. I'm gonna make you
now.
pom poms. I'm gonna have like stereotype
I
generalization.
mean, that's what it is. It's like bright, bold neon the whole time.
To be fair, Nora, I'm literally taking you across not like what I'm not gonna call the greatest hits right now.
It did strike me as kind of ridiculous. Trip's kind of down home traditionalism did strike me as a bit ridiculous for the 22nd century, but
then again, I say this as a Southerner. If anyone is going to be cleaving to antiquated ideals,
fair.
That's fair.
Am I wrong? Am I wrong, Nora and William?
That's fair.
Where
Especially
my-
coming from his mom.
Where my mind is still stuck on is how often, okay, because there are a lot of signs of, how do I say this, just, as soon as Kirk got in bed with this woman, everything was better, and clearly that was wrong, or that portrayal. Whenever Picard spoke down on this species for being less than, we definitely knew that was wrong. Absolutely. And then I see this situation. A lot of what start to kind of piggyback on what Nora was saying. What Star Trek does is, and they don't exactly hit it on the mark, they invert a lot of things, but they don't really know the consequences of what happens when you 100% invert it, because you still have the same problems. It's just a different cast, but now you added problems on top of those problems because you're showing, I can only assume, or better, for lack of a better term, favoritism towards one gender or species or sexuality or however you choose at the time. Even when Harry, bless his heart, couldn't get a promotion, so he fell in love with some trick that gave him something, and he lost his shit, and for a good reason. He stood up to Janeway, and honestly, that was the best. Let me say this real quick.
I'm gonna lean in for this.
22 minutes in, and here we are. We are. It's a Harry Kim apologia.
Okay, this is serious. I'm just gonna listen.
Whoa.
Serious business.
Where's your water?
I forgot. It's luckily the bottle did not shatter. It's in the fridge in the kitchen. So okay. I just gotta say this, and this is probably, and I think this is another FTP episode long down the road, but as far as this being like the double standard thing, and however it connects, and you can give me your opinion on how it does or doesn't. When Harry stood up to Janeway, that bitch needed to be stood up too. How are you going to demote Tom and then re-promote him? No. Let's go back. How are you going to promote him, demote him, and then promote him again? Dude literally said, "I'm still waiting for the pip in my chair."
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and you get mad at him for falling in love? Baby, just because you turned down with that one guy in that other Devore episode, or because you said no to Chakotay, because you said no to your holographic character, does not give you the right to tell Harry
I'm
what
going
to do.
I'm going to point out that Delete the Wife suggests she did not say no.
Did she go back?
I believe she did.
Look, that at that moment, but that's just not the point.
I know. It's terrible when they bring it back, isn't it?
So it's just like, so now we're coming back to this. Trip is actually trying to be a decent human being, but I think he also knows, according to his standards, right? Yeah. But to what Eris was saying earlier, it could have been any male in any species, period, and that would not have flown right in the eyes of it would have, it just wouldn't have, in the eyes, thank you, in the eyes of the audience, it would not have flown right. Why is Dukat doing this? Why is this Andorian doing that? Why is that Romulan doing this? Why is this human doing that? Why is this?
So explain Dukat. Dukat's the devil.
Like, he's literally the devil. Basically, any male at all, and I'm speaking as one myself. because it's like I have to be mindful of the things that I say and do, and how I do it. I have been touched inappropriately at work, and it did not feel good. And he was a man, like, and it sucks. It literally sucks. I literally did the whole shoulder thing, like, and it just, what's wrong, William? I don't know how to say that I am uncomfortable, because otherwise I'm gonna feel like what's his name, Brendan Fraser, who no one really believed when he was touched or molested at the time. He looked like George of the Jungle. Did people not forget? Did people forget what he looked like? And he got taken advantage of, and then now 25 years later, now people are listening to him.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck? Like, that's wrong.
And
so
this right here, this rant right here is why we have Fight the Patriarchy as a show.
Right.
Because when you cannot, when power structures are such that one gender not only has most of the power, but is also bound by that power, in the sense that they have to follow and fall into very narrow ranges of activities, then you can't have a real culture of consent.
Right.
You can't have a culture that is completely equitable, because you can't. William couldn't have said anything. Tripp struggles to come up with a way to express his discomfort, because he's coming from a culture that does not allow him to do so, that assumes that Fiesel's overtures are going to be welcome.
Right, a pretty woman's touching you. What's your problem, dude?
Exactly.
Right, and that's part of, and I gotta say that's part of like Phlox's response that kind of bugged me a little, because that's effectively what it was. It was like,
yeah.
He should, Phlox, if as a friend, should have acknowledged Tripp's discomfort, and should have validated that discomfort, and should have given Tripp space to explore it and to work through it, and then ultimately, if he wanted, to pursue something with Fiesel. But that's not what happens.
And
they just laugh at him.
Even if this entire level of discomfort and thing is something completely foreign to Dedobians, like, I don't think we're given that much background detail on their culture. Really. Maybe they're all touchy-feely like this with each other. And so you could reasonably be able to forgive Fiesel for not really getting it. Phlox has spent, 3 years on a human ship at this point?
A year, roughly. Like, I think, because remember, this is early second season.
Oh, okay, yeah,
second season. So, like, he's only been there for, like, a year and change at this point. But he's been... Right, like, he's been aboard and has seen more or less how... And this granted, this is making an assumption that in, 2001 Rick Berman Enterprise, that there weren't polycules floating around. My guess is there were not, because it was Rick Berman. But, yeah, like, I mean, not acknowledging Tripp's discomfort here, it just really does not sit well with me. And then playing that as the comedic storyline against what the episode really wants to do, which is where we're going to shift to now. Look at the transition!
Segue!
At the 30-minute mark, this is good. We're doing really good.
I tell you, I am on it. I am on it. I don't know if it's the nachos, the Super Bowl, or like so much wine.
Glad I wasn't drinking tonight.
I mean, that's valid, yeah.
I was intending to, but then I got really happy with my lip liner and decided I did not want to mess it up.
Right. That is fair. That's fair.
I mean, you're looking fierce, Eris. You are. But this lets us transition to Phlox being because Phlox really handles T'Pol's discomfort pretty well.
So professional.
He navigates his role as her doctor with respect to her confidentiality. Mostly okay up until the point where like he's just like, yeah, no, you told me not to go, but I'm gonna go anyway. Down to the planet to talk to like the evil Vulcans, because Vulcans are still at this point
Assholes.
jerks in the Enterprise universe. They're terrible.
Yeah.
Because we have yet to have the events in Kershara and later episodes.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about brain aids, guys. Eris, I know you have thoughts. I know.
This entire plot line was a disaster fire, as far as I'm concerned. So you
Do
can
I need
see,
to go grab the dumpster fire and like hold him?
I mean, maybe if the Next Generation had done this in the late 80s, it would have been relevant.
No.
Thanks, William. Thanks.
I had to. I had this on standby because as soon as she said reverse Riker, I was like, oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
this is it.
This is it. You can't be in
This is his moment.
This is it. Totally.
So, like, I could have seen this landing much more positively if Next Generation had done it when, even maybe in the early 90s, when maybe the whole complicitness of the Reagan administration in letting AIDS spiral out of control because they just didn't give a shit about queer people wasn't quite so prevalent in the public consciousness. But doing this in the 2000s, it just the episode notes I read were that Viacom at the time was trying to do a big AIDS awareness thing, and they showed Brannon and Braga a slideshow, a PowerPoint about AIDS, and the two of them walked away from it and said, "Oh, let's do this episode." So it literally is a response to an after-school PSA, and it shows painfully. So the whole, like,
And you'll note in those same episode notes that both Brannon Braga and Rick Berman make it very clear that it's not their jobs to tell you what to think. It's only their job to make you think about it, which is one of the reasons that this is just all over the place.
Look at the way she rolled her eyes.
She just roll her eyes, man. That was a full-on head roll.
That was a full-on
now,
head roll.
Now we have Eris's meme.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So
Yes.
This fails for in a commentary on AIDS, and it fails in any kind of being queer representation, because as they show it here, they villainize the mind melders, our queer analog, as being the ones responsible for spreading this disease, which was exactly how the Reagan administration talked about AIDS. They made it into a queer-only disease, and
that was in the original nomenclature, wasn't it?
Possibly. I don't know, but then this episode comes along, and it's like you could. To me, I saw. It was like as I watched this, I saw how it had written itself into a corner almost. Like, oh, well, we're going to take this thing where T'Pol got mind violated and use it to give her this disease. Oh, but now we're using this disease as our allegory for AIDS. And, oh, no, now if we're going to use the mind melders as our allegory for gay people, then we're coming out and saying, oh, but because they mind raped her, that now we're making gay people into our villains in this episode. We can't have that. So now we have to make some kind of stance about how it's, it's not that you have the disease, it's that you did this dirty mind melding, and it all just feels like a mushy mess. And throughout this entire episode, Jolene Blalock's face looked like she was had just spent 3 hours screaming at somebody about what an awful script this was and how she hated it. And she had realized that she wasn't going to get anywhere and was just trying to bite her tongue and get through this damn thing. Which,
to be fair, that's mostly Jolene Blalock for seasons 1 and 2 anyway.
Yes. And I think her I feel like her anger and frustration that she portrays in this episode was very genuine to having to act in this episode.
I also think Younes was a bad choice, by the way. I thought that was a very bad choice because it kind of undercuts a little bit of what they're doing or trying to do ostensibly, to have Younes on the one hand say to his Vulcan cohort, how we love is not hurting anybody, leave us alone, but also to Paul, you should tell them about your rape.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In like the same sentence.
Yeah. Like,
I'm going to do this, take a stand, but also, you know, it's not
like
my fault.
She is literally the I got this through a blood transfusion hemophiliac image.
Oh my gosh.
The whole it felt like the episode was trying to shame Paul for not wanting to just come forward with this clear and obvious fact that would exonerate her, which just shows how remarkably insensitive the writer and the showrunners and everybody were to survivors of sexual assault and what that can be like for people.
I think that hurt whatever kind of good they were trying to do by trying to force her to say, oh no, I'm not part of this minority subculture. This was forced upon me, so, you know, I'm clean. And I hate it. I think that just ruined everything.
I'm so tired of that word. I'm going to be tired of that word for a while.
They couldn't even invent a technobabble term for this minority subculture within Vulcan society. They could have mashed up some vowels and consonants with an apostrophe and come up with something else for it, and they didn't even do that.
Right. I mean, it's kind of going back. It's kind of going back to like Code of Honor, where they, you know, it's, you know, like my first one and the center place, and it's just like okay.
And this on top of everything I just bitched about how this episode fails talking about AIDS and talking about queer people.
And sexual assault.
Pardon?
And sexual assault survivors.
Yeah, that too. It's bad world building. First of all, I know that the Enterprise turned Vulcans into the bureaucratic villains for its entire run because they did that apparently, and frankly, it was better than time-traveling Nazi lizards or whatever it was they came up with eventually. But it felt really forced that the Vulcans would have this stigma against mind melding, and then just decide not. It felt very forced that they would have a stigma and then not decide to work on a cure. Like I could reasonably buy Vulcans having reservations about melding and sharing emotions, but to ignore the actual physiological damage that can be transmitted this way seemed very illogical.
This is one of those things that literally goes back to your assertion that this was an after school special gone awry. Because literally what they're trying to do is they're trying to reflect the Reagan administration in a Star Trek analog. And the problem is that it just doesn't quite work with the species they chose. Oh, God bless them all.
And on top of that, still in the bad world building department, you're dealing with telepathy and psychicness here. You could actually have come up with some really interesting backstory about how being able to read minds and share minds could have had something to actually be afraid of in terms of social stability, and how that could have been very dangerous. Voyager had at least one episode, maybe a couple, where they were dealing with a species that aggressively hunted psychics for being forces of social instability, and that I could actually see that going somewhere.
So they do a little bit actually later in Enterprise's run. during the arc where they attempt to rehabilitate the Vulcans by reintroducing them to Sirach's teaching. Right. So there's a lot of conversation about the power of passing a katra and the necessity of melding to that process. They do act, and what that ends up doing, which I think is interesting, is it's a fairly revolutionary idea that they're able to pass Sirach on from entity to entity. And of course, they need the strong human man to do it.
Obviously.
I hated every minute of that speech. I'm sorry. I couldn't do it.
I didn't even remember that episode.
Yeah.
I've kind of blotted out most of Enterprise except for the Mirror Universe episodes and the fact that I can't get Enterprise versus the Disruptor Luftwaffe out of my head.
Yeah, that face right there. I did a lot of that.
Just that face right there.
So Nora, you want to tell us about the genesis of your Dr. Crusher face for this episode?
I'm sorry.
2 pages of notes as to why
Oh, yes.
episode. So
Yes.
let's just talk about it.
Well, a lot of it was just some quotes from the Vulcan Medical Committee, just that they were just so blatant about. Yes, those guys, those are BFFs. I mean, I think one of the what
we're the exception of the one poor gay guy in the foreground here. What
Eris was speaking to about how it seemed illogical that they would just turn their backs on him. They actually made a quote about that. They said that they considered them genetic aberrations who prey on people like you, and so that, I mean, why? Where? I don't understand where they were going with that. Like, what were they trying to teach us with?
Yeah, what was the metaphor?
The writers being extremely uncomfortable with the idea of gay people, and then also like gay men specifically. I think really is the issue here, guys.
Yes. Which is another reason why I think they were so quick. They wanted to make T'Pol. They wanted to make her, get her out of this situation. Like, she's the innocent victim, and another failure.
Like this episode felt like it suddenly realized it was portraying going into the predatory gaze trope and was trying to backpedal and just managed to keep digging itself deeper.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because it's like what I've seen with all 3 things that they were trying to say in this particular episode was like, obviously shit happens, but, and I'm not to take away from anyone else's story, but it's just like, is this how you see our community when you look at us? Is this the only thing that you see? That we're either assaulted, not believed, uncomfortable, or making other people feel uncomfortable? That's it?
Yes.
That's it?
I mean, Eris is kind of the post for that. Like, I mean, she is. Yeah.
You just did did your feed just hang there, Marie?
Yeah, because could you repeat that?
But my like this going right. Like, I mean, you're literally talking about paranoia, and community is on the
We're having
fear.
I think we're having connection issues because I see your shocked face.
Yeah. You keep cutting in and out.
We heard about paranoia, and they did play into that, especially when Younes was meeting T'Pol in the deep, dark alley with the fog, and Younes was hiding behind the post in the dark. I mean, I don't understand.
Look, a Vulcan glory hole.
Oh no! I mean, honestly,
come
on.
What is sex with a Vulcan? What is sex with a Vulcan like?
Broken. Like, I can't. Vulcan glory hole.
I need to know what sex with a Vulcan is like. That's all I want to know.
But yeah, no.
I'm sure there's somewhere on Beyonce's internet that we can find what that experience is like.
I am not looking that up on AO3.
I'm sorry.
I will get back to you.
See, now
no, what Marie was trying to get
and
to
I gotta tell you right now,
before her connection started being crap there was the entire idea of trans panic.
Mm-hmm. Is feeding into it. I just don't understand if they were trying to make a difference and teach a lesson. I don't understand what that lesson was.
Yeah,
I don't think they did either. I think that's why.
And that's why I think this episode was it's so incoherent, because it feels like someone from on high, Berman and Braga, gave them general marching orders, and then they, the people who actually had to execute it realized what a steaming shit pile this was going to turn into, and were trying to steer it in a different direction, and it just kind of all flopped.
So, all of Enterprise.
Yes,
oh,
that
no. And then having Archer come in and try to save the day, of course, and with his big speech, and we haven't been in this intolerant in 1,000 years.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
Really?
100 years.
I got your Space Florida Man as Exhibit A. Like,
talk about Star Trek optimism, to have humans in the 22nd century standing there saying, "Oh, we got rid of bigotry 100 years ago." And I think when my wife and I watched this, we both looked at that and just said, "Really?" simultaneously.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for mansplaining that to me.
Yeah, we ain't buying that's going to get wrapped up in 150 years here, buddy.
So let's take a few moments to talk about Archer in this episode, because I really think that Archer gets the raw end of the writing stick a lot. I don't think anybody quite knew what to do with Archer, and as a result, we get
random shit
like this.
Yeah. Inspiration.
Because he's not actually being a particularly good captain here.
I felt like his speech, and his anger even, was just so erratic and sporadic and all over the place. Like,
hey, Scott Bakula, stop banging the table. Like, we can't hear your line.
Like, Picard, okay, just think about this with some of the other captains. Picard would have come down on the Vulcan Science Academy like the wrath of God. And it would have been a Shakespearean level speech that would have given us all chills, because that is what Patrick Stewart would bring. Kirk and Sisko wouldn't be fucking around with this. They just would have stolen the research data somehow.
Just not even deal with it. Like, no.
Janeway would probably mutter something about needing coffee and go spend another 7 years trying to solve the problem. But
no. She would have shot something.
Or
she would have gone from BFG, and she would have gone. Yeah.
Or Tuvok would have gone behind her back and done it for her.
Also valid.
While we're on the subject of Vulcan.
Hello, Anyanka.
Like,
she is very spicy these days.
Archer
I love
comes
some
off,
spicy kitties.
Archer does come off as a little bit childish in this episode.
Right?
I think so, yes.
I mean, Scott Bakula phoning this in, guys. Phoning it in.
I thought it was improv. I'll be honest with you. I thought
it's been a long time since I've made a Vulcan upset or something. It's like, what is happening?
Like, why do we have to do this?
Like why did you get angry that fast? Like,
honestly, his only really good sequence in this entire episode is when he's basically yelling at T'Pol and Phlox for concealing something from him about his first officer. And I know that Phlox comes up with you've heard of patient confidentiality. Wow, again, words are hard.
Words are hard.
That extends generally until you have a disease that interferes with your mission readiness. And Panar syndrome is going to send T'Pol insane. And T'Pol is stronger, smarter, faster than pretty much anybody else on the bridge, Archer included. And so if she goes berserk, there's a problem. And Archer's right. Like, as her CO, he needs to know that. And he needs to know that this is a possibility. And so, like, Phlox's argument there does not hold up. And I really like how Bakula plays it. Because that's where Bakula's going with it. And that's where Archer's going with it. Is that I needed to know this because this affects her mission readiness.
I think he did have one other good strong moment in this episode, and that was when when the Vulcan board was trying to get him to confirm that T'Pol had been mind violated or whatever.
Yeah. My second officer, my science officer, doesn't want to discuss it, and that's good
The
enough for me.
only one in the whole episode that kept his word.
Yeah.
Yep. But again, if Younes hadn't done it, we'd have gotten a much. So T'Pol ultimately does actually resign her commission with the Vulcan High Command at one point later in the series. That would have had to have happened a lot earlier if Younes hadn't made the sacrifice he does.
Right.
Because they were going to pull her off the ship, and they would have. And
yeah.
because she's technically a member of their military structure, pseudo-military structure, whatever, they had the right to do it. Like, they were well within their rights to pull her off. It was blatantly wrong. Mm-hmm. So I think there's another level of, and just discussing how important the state is in this whole phenomenon. And it's one of those that I really, really wish the episode had explored, because we've talked a little bit explicitly about how the Reagan administration just dropped the ball on the AIDS epidemic.
Not even so much dropped the ball as took the ball and deliberately threw it under the school bus and encouraged the children to chase it.
Like, don't look at this ball. Here it is. Let me do a bunch of shit to it. And
what ball? There's no ball.
Yeah. Look over here.
Their attitude straight out of the gate was literally, well, this is a disease that affects those dirty gays, and maybe it'll kill them all off.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, I remember
what it was, and that's what's going on. And that's what's going on on Vulcan. And credit where it's due. The episode doesn't shy away from that. It is very obvious that the Vulcans are wrong.
Yes.
They are objectively wrong.
Yes.
And at no point, and seriously, at no point does the episode make any apologies for that. And I gotta say, that takes me a little bit back to The Outcast, because that episode, for all its mungling, came down in the same place.
Fair. I think we're in a spot where using the Vulcans for that it's illogical.
Not arguing.
And it made it not land as well as it could have if it had been, I don't know, if you'd found a way to make this about the Klingons or something instead. Or the Andorians.
I mean, the Klingons literally would have taken them all out and shot them.
Well, yes.
I mean, without question, I will give that to the Klingons. They don't take no shit. As a matter of fact, they will gaslight you. I'm sorry, Marie. They will gaslight you just so they can have shit to fight. You know?
Season 1 of Discovery. Oh, I'm sorry.
Bring to that.
I'm sorry.
Until then,
I have a Michael Burnham-shaped frog in my throat.
Oh
no! I did not think I was going to ever end up missing Klingon space Vikings until season 1 of Discovery happened.
We're gonna get there. Don't worry. We're gonna get there.
She has it written in. There's a whole arc for 2022.
You're gonna make
me fair, Discovery is actually season 2 of FTP. It's actually season 2.
Oh my goodness. But oh wow. So we covered with. Yeah, I'll be honest. Yeah, just watching, it was this scene in particular, because I didn't get a chance to rewatch it admittedly, but after watching this scene here, because I'll be honest, right before this, of all the last 2 weeks, this particular scene has been floating around. This scene and this scene have been floating around on social media, specifically TikTok, because I follow a lot of Trekkies and Trekkers that do TikTok pages, and a lot of people were commenting about the acting that was going on Bakula's part. Like, what were you doing? And when I watched it, as an adult, theater educated now, it makes me feel like, was this like a improv thing? Did you have, because I felt like I felt like this is one of those episodes where the captain wasn't even needed. Like, because
but I gotta say, Jolene Blaylock, despite the fact that T'Pol's entire thing kind of tap dances around making sense, credit where it's due, again, Jolene Blaylock nails it throughout this series. I mean, she is doing everything she can with the script she has. Mm-hmm. And I really, 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 I understand that the actress herself is very frustrated and, you know, just doesn't want to talk about Enterprise ever. But I really want to, you know, highlight just how well she handles this and just the level of stoked rage you see when she's talking to Archer about not letting Younes lose his position without a fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
on the list of things that I would not want to do or be is I would not want to be, you know, the pompous Vulcan gray-haired windbag and meet T'Pol in an alley. Mm-hmm. Because she is straight up going to logically murder yo ass.
Hey, Marie. Yo bitch ass. No, you gotta explain. Yeah, you gotta explain the joke to them. You gotta explain the joke.
No, I don't. we will do that perhaps off the air when we're not recording.
Oh yeah. Sorry guys, you can't hear this one. But yeah.
We can't share all of our secrets.
We can't. Yo. Anyway.
But now we are 3 minutes from the end of the hour. Any final thoughts? Any final reactions? Any thoughts on where you want to go next, guys?
If I may, without spoilers, I just got done watching the what could be interpreted as season 8 for Deep Space Nine. It was so good. With help me, Marie.
Andrew Robinson and Sid Fiddle.
Yes, and this show is called Alone Together. And it, let's just say, on an LGBT level, it revealed a lot. And
I think that's fair. I think it's about time that we start looking into positive representations of our community in Star Trek. So
it was positive.
That's excellent. So next episode, guys, is going to be semi-canon fanfic.
Hey, trust me. I will be.
I am here for anything Andrew Robinson does.
Because I'll be honest. You can just let them talk while you're washing dishes, and you will just see their characters. And I am so glad that they did a positive representation, and they gave some good tea too. Like, they gave some real tea that I like. My favorite line, I can't even say it because it's the major spoiler. I swear all of you will throw your hats back. You're like, wait, he slept with who? Like, it's one of those. I can't tell you, but it's so.
That will be another, you know, Robin Memoriam episode for sure, because that is her favorite pairing.
Ooh.
Oh, I think I know who you might be talking about.
Eris, have you seen it?
I have not seen it yet. No.
Let me shut up. Okay.
Nora, any final thoughts?
Yes, I have some final thoughts. Sorry, I'm trying to think. I really liked what T'Pol was trying to do with, like, just what you were saying. She's like the one bright star that I left the episode with. You know, she really tried to send the right message, even though she was playing Frogger with a lot of bullshit. But she was trying.
Oh my god, that is also going on a shirt. Like, we've had a couple today. We've had I Don't Respond, All Is Stupid, and Frogger with bullshit. Like,
yes, like
where is our Truckers Delight merchandising? Like, where?
I mean, I have quotes and I have screenshots from everyone doing like mine is like the water thing. Then we have Marie's shocked face, and then we have Jermaine's disappointment face, and then we have Manny's excited face,
and now we have like Eris's full body roll,
like just her hair, just like oh.
And then Nora's got the
feel it. You can feel it.
And then this is Nora with her page of notes.
And, hey, I'm ready for the fanfic. A blank page. Let's do it. Let's get some notes.
Awesome.
We actually made it on time.
We did. Eris still gets her chance.
That's right. Please.
I will not ruin our doing this on time. I think I have honestly said all of my feelings about this episode pretty vehemently, honestly. So I don't really have anything more I need to state.
Fair enough. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to Trekker's Delight and LGBTrek. Like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you'd like to see. Let us know if you want to explore something else a little bit differently. And you can find us anywhere you can find your podcasts. Live long and prosper, guys.
Later. Now again, I'm going to say this again because we're near the end of our show. If you are our allies, we are not talking to you. We are not talking to you. This does not... Okay? We're not talking to you. Stop trying to take our and make it your goddamn business. It ain't got nothing to do with you. It ain't got nothing to do with you.
Our experience of grief independently.
Bruh.
Yes.
I love that they're in the comments.
So much is like I'm just reading the comments.
Yeah. They should brought their child out. Such a good point, Will. God, that's such a good point. And he's really thought about it too. You should be here. Will, get over here.
I thought he had a girlfriend on Insta. It's been ages since I've mucked about, but.
Okay, moving on. Let's move on.
Yeah, we gotta move on.